In this lesson, I want to talk to you about the difference between an angular melody and a smooth melody. Let's think of a few contexts where each of these melodies would be appropriate. Now, an angular melody is going to be something that you're going to write for a horror film, or something that is going to be maybe a comedy, or something that might sound a little bit more jarring, where you want the audience to be a little bit on the edge of their seats. Whereas a smooth melody might be for a love scene, or it might be more of just a kind of a relaxing ambiance that you're trying to create, maybe some new age sounds that you're trying to create. Each of these melodies are going to have a specific context that you might use them in, but I want to show you a couple of different ways or ideas to write a melody that could be angular or smooth. Now, of course, in terms of an angular melody, one of the things you want to think of is the pitch content that you want to use. So if you're writing an angular melody, what that's going to mean is it's going to, just like in architecture, you're going to get something that is very angular, something that looks almost like a mountain peak, where you're going to jump up and then down and up and then down at different levels, right? So let's say we're going to start in our favorite key of C major here, and let's start on Sol. So maybe we'll start on G, and then we jump up to C, leap down to E, maybe go up the octave, and then carry down a little scale, but then jump back up and then leap back down. So characteristics of an angular melody is going to be something that's going to be leaping a lot, and it's going to be it's going to have a wide range. So you're going to go from maybe the lowest end of the range to the top or the highest end of the range. And of course, this is going to create it's kind of an uneasy feeling, where even though we're in a major key, it's going to feel a little bit uneasy because you're leaping around so much. And oftentimes with these angular melodies, what you'll see is you'll have quicker rhythms. So oftentimes you'll have eighth notes or a set of 16th notes that happen in really rapid succession to make it a little bit more interesting. Now, oftentimes you can use meters that are really odd, like 5/8 or 7/8, something that's a little bit more complicated and complex, and this will give us this kind of an uneasy feel because it's an odd number. Now, in terms of a smooth melody, of course, we want to use something that's going to be in an even meter, like 4/4 or 2/4 or something like that. And oftentimes smooth melodies are going to start on tonic, and there's going to be a lot fewer leaps. Maybe there's just 1, 2, or 3 leaps in the melody, and we're going to have more of a scale-like motion in our melody. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't have something that ends or that uses a lot of skips and steps, or that ends on something other than tonic. We could still end on like the 3rd or the 5th or something like that. But more often, a smooth melody is going to have a sequence of 3 or 4 notes going in the same direction. And oftentimes we'll use slurs to show, okay, play this really smooth, whereas maybe our angular melody is going to have a lot of staccatos or tenutos. So it's going to be something that's going to be really short and nothing that's connected, right? Now, in these smoother melodies, we could use 8th notes, we could use 16th notes, but of course, slower rhythms are probably going to be better to make it a little bit smoother. And oftentimes when we end, we're going to end on a chord tone. So if we're ending on tonic, we're going to end in the key of C. We end either on C, E, or G. If we end on an unresolved, or what we call a non-chord tone, the melody is going to sound unresolved, and it's going to kind of leave us wanting more. So depending on what kind of a melody you're writing, whether an angular melody or a smooth melody, first you want to think of the context that you're writing it for. If you get hired for a film score, or if you get hired to write a song for someone, or even if you get hired to write a jingle for a podcast, which is so famous nowadays, oftentimes you can figure out, okay, what is the context of the podcast or the movie? Is it a horror film? Or is it going to be something a little bit more interesting than a horror film? Maybe it's going to be a drama or something like that. Either way, if you're going to write something for a film, you can use either an angular or a smooth melody, depending on the context. Well, I hope that was helpful this week when you're looking at your melodies. Try to write an angular melody and a smooth melody.